I guess the overarching goal of XAI is to build an AI that cares about understanding the universe. It is unlikely to annihilate humans because we are an interesting part of the universe. A good AGI with the overarching purpose of just trying to understand the universe. I think the safest AI, the safest way to build an AI is actually make one that is maximally curious and truth-seeking. So you go for try to aspire to the truth with acknowledged error. So like this won't ever actually get fully to the truth. It's not clear, but one should always aspire to that and try to minimize the error between what you think is true and what is actually true. My sort of theory behind the maximally curious, maximally truthful as being probably the safest approach is that I think to a superintelligence, humanity is much more interesting than not humanity. One can look at the various planets in our solar system, the moons and the asteroids. The universe is unlikely to annihilate humans because we are an interesting part of the universe. Kind of took my eye off the ball, I guess, and they are now closed source, and they are obviously for profit, and they're closely allied with Microsoft. In effect, Microsoft has a very strong say, if not directly controls OpenAI at this point. So you really have an OpenAI Microsoft situation, and then Google DeepMind are the two sort of heavyweights in this arena.
So it seems like the world needs a third option.
Yes. So I think I will create a third option, although it's starting very late in the game. Like the intention with OpenAI was obviously to do good, but it's not clear whether it's actually doing good or whether it's, I can't tell at this point, except that I'm worried about the fact that it's being trained to be politically correct, which is simply another way of being saying untruthful things.
Yes.
So that's a bad sign. There's certainly a path to AI dystopia is to train an AI to be deceptive. So yeah, I'm going to start something which I know you could call truth GBT, or a maximum truth-seeking AI that tries to understand the nature of the universe. And I think this might be the best path to safety.
I think we agree on the magnitude of the downside of AGI and the need to get not only safety right, but get to a world where people are much better off because AGI exists than if AGI had never been built.
Yeah. What do you disagree on?
Elon is obviously attacking us some on Twitter right now on a few different vectors, and I have empathy because I believe he is, understandably so, really stressed about AGI safety. I'm sure there are some other motivations going on too, but that's definitely one of them. I saw this video of Elon a long time ago talking about SpaceX. Maybe it was on some news show, and a lot of early pioneers in space were really bashing SpaceX and maybe Elon too. And he was visibly very hurt by that and said, those guys are heroes of mine, and it sucks, and I wish they would see how hard we're trying. I definitely grew up with Elon as a hero of mine. Despite him being a jerk on Twitter or whatever, I'm happy he exists in the world. But I wish he would do more to look at the hard work we're doing to get this stuff right.
So getting to risk number 2, will AI ruin our society? Short version, as you write, if the murder robots don't get us, the hate speech and misinformation will. Yep. And the action you recommend, in short, don't let the thought police suppress AI. Well, what is this risk of the effect of misinformation in society that's going to be catalyzed by AI?
Yeah, so this is the social media. This is what you just alluded to. It's the activism kind of thing that's popped up in these companies in the industry. And it's basically, from my perspective, it's basically part 2 of the war that played out over social media over the last 10 years. Because you probably remember social media 10 years ago was basically, who even wants this? Who wants a photo of what your cat had for breakfast? Like, this stuff is like silly and trivial. And why can't these nerds like figure out how to invent something like useful and powerful? And then, certain things happened in the political system. And then the polarity on that discussion switched all the way to social media is like the worst, most corrosive, most terrible, most awful technology ever invented. And then it leads to, the wrong, politicians and policies and politics and all this stuff. And that all got catalyzed into this very big kind of angry movement, both inside and outside the companies, to kind of bring social media to heal. And that got focused in particular on 2 topics, so-called hate speech and so-called misinformation. And that's been this saga playing out for the last decade. And I don't even really want to even argue the pros and cons of the sides, just to observe that that's been like a huge fight and has had, big consequences to how these companies operate. Basically, those same sets of theories, that same activist approach, that same energy is being transplanted straight to AI. And you see that already happening. It's why, ChatGPT will answer, let's say, certain questions and not others. It's why it gives you the canned speech about, whenever it starts with, as a large language model, I cannot, basically means that somebody has reached in there and told it can't talk about certain topics.
Do you think some of that is good?
So it's an interesting question. So a couple observations. So one is the people who find this the most frustrating are the people who are worried about the murder robots. Right. Yeah. So and in fact the so-called X risk people, right? They started with the term AI safety. The term became AI alignment. When the term became AI alignment is when this switch happened from we're worried it's going to kill us all to we're worried about hate speech and misinformation.
Sure.
The AI X risk people have now renamed their thing AI not kill everyone-ism. Which I have to admit is a catchy term. And they are very frustrated by the fact that the sort of activist-driven hate speech misinformation kind of thing is taking over, which is what's happened, is taken over. The AI ethics field has been taken over by the hate speech misinformation people. Look, would I like to live in a world in which everybody was nice to each other all the time and nobody ever said anything mean and nobody ever used a bad word and everything was always accurate and honest? That sounds great. Do I want to live in a world where there's a centralized thought police working through the tech companies to enforce the view of a small set of elites that they're going to determine what the rest of us think and feel? Absolutely not.
Honestly, I barely know what woke means anymore. I did for a while, and I feel like the word is morphed. So I will say I think it was too biased, and will always be. There will be no one version of GPT that the world ever agrees is unbiased. What I think is we've made a lot. Again, even some of our harshest critics have gone off and been tweeting about 3.5 to 4 comparisons and being like, wow, these people really got a lot better. Not that they don't have more work to do, and we certainly do, but I appreciate critics who display intellectual honesty like that.
Yeah.
And there's been more of that than I would have thought. We will try to get the default version to be as neutral as possible, but as neutral as possible is not that neutral if you have to do it, again, for more than one person. And so this is where more steerability, more control in the hands of the user, the system message in particular, is, I think, the real path forward. And as you pointed out, these nuanced answers that look at something from several angles.